Hello and welcome to this FlexoTech's latest webinar, which is being held in partnership with GEW and which will explore how UV LED curing can benefit your flexo printing business. I'm Charlie Cortens and I'm the editor of FlexoTech, and I'll be your host for the next hour or so as we investigate how much it costs to invest in the technology, the applications it's most suited for, and how it can improve your production processes and more. As most of our audience will hopefully be aware, the use of UV LED curing in flexography has increased significantly in recent years, with the technology now being firmly established within the industry. Indeed, many believe its use will soon overtake that of conventional UV curing technology, eventually becoming the default solution for flexo printers. Factors behind this growth in popularity include rising energy costs around the world, a laser focus from brands on sustainability issues, and more. To discuss this, I'll be joined by Neill, GEW Sales Manager for the UK and Ireland. Jamie is responsible for the company's sales across both nations, working closely with customers to deliver UV solutions for a wide range of applications. He is experienced in technical sales and account management, having spent the past 4 years with a leading equipment manufacturer. During this time, his focus has been on adding value to customer projects and services, and he now brings this experience to GEW and advises printers who are considering an upgrade to their press by retrofitting a UV LED curing system. Jamie and I will be joined by 2 printers that have recently installed such systems from GEW. First, we have Adrian Brown, the General Manager of Olympus Print Group. Adrian has a 40-year background in print technology. An apprenticeship as a litho printer was followed into production planning, then sales and marketing before he set up his own print company. He has never had any doubts regarding the explosion of UV LED technology and believes that standing still is moving backwards. This led to him purchasing Olympus's first UV LED lamp heads from GEW back in 2019. The ARC LED-enabled system on their Neill FA4 allows Olympus to interchange E2C and LEO LED cassettes on a job-by-job basis to allow the company to meet customer requirements. We are also joined by Shaun Boult, the factory manager at Bizerba Labels UK. After 20 years working with a multinational food packaging corporation, Shaun moved to the UK from New Zealand in 2015. Since then, he has worked with UK market leaders specialising in the management of end-to-end production and new developments. With this experience in hand, he was appointed factory manager for Bizerba Labels UK in June of 2021 and was tasked with setting up the organisation's new clean cut labels division with state-of-the-art equipment, including an MPS LED 530 press. He was recently promoted to factory operations manager and now heads all factory operations on site. Shaun is dedicated to developing sustainable packaging, waste solutions, and continuous improvement through team-based lean manufacturing and quality-based concepts. I'd like to extend my thanks to all 3 men for joining us today. In a moment, I'll be diving into a series of questions that will explore precisely how UV LED has changed operations at both Olympus and Bizerba. But before we do that, I'd like to remind all of you watching that we will be taking questions from the audience. If you take a look at your screen, you should see a box where you can submit any queries you have, and our 3 panelists will answer as many of them as they can over the course of the webinar. But without further ado, I'd like to start by asking a series of questions. So perhaps, Adrian, you'd be willing to start us off with the first one. How does UV LED benefit flexo printers?
It's a good question. We started with looking at sustainability. That was the benefit we saw to sell the story to our customers. Obviously, with the running costs as well, and now with the increased running costs of electricity for any print press, then we have a situation whereby we can improve our capacity as well as save money. So that's the main 3 areas: sustainability, the running costs, and the fact that we can actually bring more machinery in and limit or mitigate the electricity cost.
Fantastic. And Shaun, is that something you'd concur with, those 3 points?
Because Bizerba UK, we're setting up from scratch, it made total sense to go full LED right from the start, you know, from your 30 to 40,000 hours per lamp versus conventional UV. It just made, and we haven't had any, everything has just been outstanding. So we're happy we went with technology right from the start.
Fantastic. And Jamie, from the GEW point of view, is there anything you'd like to add? Any points that haven't been covered?
Yeah, I'd echo what the guys have said. I think the the big talking point in terms of the benefits has been energy reduction, particularly recently. I think with LED, important to remember, the other side of things. Anyone going from conventional UV, you no longer have ozone with LED, and also the application advantages. As Shaun said there, you're looking at 30,000-40,000 hours on your LEDs, so your sort of consistent output for that duration can be a real sort of plus to your final product and the consistency of that. So as much as energy is the main talking point at the moment, there are other benefits that come into play as well.
Fantastic. Thank you all three. Moving on, what research did you do in order to understand the technology and to evaluate your options before installing it?
Yeah, we went on quite an extensive program in researching into what to do. We started by putting two lamps on and working with the varnishes and then through the inks. We still have some more work to do as well because it's ever evolving. This conversation would have been different 6 months ago. It would have been different a year before that, and so it's an ever moving target that we see ourselves looking at. The research involved, I think it was over 100 hours of testing on them initially before we started to move forward, and then we expanded out onto another machine. We had a lot of success with cold foil to start with, which gave us a great deal of confidence. And then talking to the industry, we realised that quite a bit of a huge amount of development work was being done as well. And so it was a case of talk to everyone and see where they are, then go to the next stage and test and test and test. So it was a huge amount of testing. I know my colleagues in the All4 group around the world have been doing quite a lot of testing as well, with a major focus in the last 2 years on that. So yeah, we started a long time ago testing and looking at it, looking at sustainability, moved on and just kept running and testing inks and looking at lamp life. It was LED life and where it went to.
Yeah, I think Adrian's right on that point in terms of the research, and it's sort of twofold. One, in terms of the ever-changing conversation. I think a lot of people who may have done research 5-6 years ago when companies like GEW brought out LED, perhaps it wasn't quite ready at that point for them. I think it's important with where we are with LED now is that we have moved a long way in 5 years, but not just for LED manufacturers like ourselves, but as Adrian points out, the ink manufacturers. They have developed a lot in the last 5 years, and the research that now goes into it is not just find an LED supplier, it's find an LED supplier with an ink system that suits and works with what you're doing in your applications. So it's really important to kind of involve sort of all stakeholders in that.
Brilliant, fantastic. And then, Adrian, can I ask, did you do any sort of return on investment analysis before you installed the system?
Yeah, yes, we did. As electricity prices change, have been changing, the ROI has become shorter and shorter. We did a full analysis per press, looking at the number of hours, cost of electricity. We took an average of cost of electricity, looking at talking to the energy companies to see where they thought it was going, and yeah, it came out very positive. One major tick in the box was the fact that we'd implemented quite a few press installations, and we were quite high up on our capacity on electricity, and so bringing the LED in actually means that we don't have to potentially look at installing another substation, which is circa £150,000, and so we can actually bring in more machinery by reducing the amount of electricity we use. You go into LED, and so increase our capacity, which is a bit of a no-brainer, really.
Fantastic, thank you. I think Shaun's dealing with some technical issues behind the scenes. So, Jamie, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that part.
Yeah, I was just going to add in. I think with where the energy prices are now and seeing such drastic increases for companies, one of the things that we've implemented is a new return on investment calculator. So on our website now, and can possibly be shared to those watching after the fact, we've got a dedicated page on there where people can input information on their current system and also and then look at a comparison of the saving in terms of energy, CO2, but also equate that into a cost saving by entering their energy costs. So that's one of the things that we're quite sort of hot on and really focusing on at the moment, is supporting those customers who are seeing really significant increases in energy costs, and a way of using LED to reduce that. And as Adrian said, it's not just the energy costs. You're looking at 70% reduction with our air-cooled system, but also the install power as well. For the install power of one UV system, you can actually run 2 LED systems. So anyone who's close to their capacity, it is a very good way of very quickly bringing down your energy.
Fantastic, thank you. So,
Charlie, can I just say as well?
Of course.
Sorry, I was just going to add there, the cost of ink as well. We've been heavily involved in digital ink over the years, and we've seen the cost of digital ink fall. Obviously, the more people who get into running dual core inks or LED inks, there's a cost there to take into account the fact that the cost will eventually come down. I know we're in a bit of a world at the moment of increased inflation, etc., but I think you will see ink costs come down. So that is something that is perhaps a slight intangible that you can't put in there, that you need to allow for when you're looking at the ROI.
Fantastic, thank you. And then in terms of specific applications, what sort of work is UV LED most appropriate for?
Yeah, it's losing communication slightly there, but we're running a lot of PP, PE, papers and shrink sleeve material as well, as the normal standard self-adhesive or PSL lines, all running perfectly okay. Yeah, we have no issues. In fact, I mentioned earlier, I think the actual cold foil quality has actually improved. Some of the work we can hold has been very, very good. Yeah, very good.
Fantastic, thank you. And Jamie, is there anything you'd like to add on the applications front?
Yeah, I think they've largely covered it. I think for where LED is in terms of application, for the most part, it can be used anywhere that conventional UV can. And then, as Adrian says, there are actually some applications that perhaps people don't realise are actually better with LED due to the wavelengths that they run at. Cold foiling being one, but also the curing capabilities of whites and some blacks and certain other colours is actually better with LED than what it is with a conventional lamp. When you then throw in the mix as already mentioned, the longevity of consistent output, your application on a day by day, week by week, year by year is even more consistent in your application. Whereas with a UV lamp, where your output peaks and troughs with changing of lamps, that can have a real impact on the final product that you're putting out as well.
Fantastic, thank you. So then, Adrian, perhaps I'll direct this one at you. What are the costs involved with UV LED, and how does it impact your energy consumption?
Sorry, what were the costs?
Yes.
I'm not going to go into specific costs. Obviously, Jamie gave it all the way for free, so I'm joking. The costs are reasonably substantial, but the return you get is very quick. I mean, anything around a 2 year, anything under 3 year, I would say is acceptable, more than acceptable. We're getting down towards 2 year return ROI. So yeah, it's a cost you've got to put in there, but who knows where the cost of electricity is going to go. It's gone through the roof. We need to you need to future-proof yourself. And I think it's, whilst it is a cost, a substantial cost, it's something that is going to future-proof your company. It's a bit of a no-brainer, to be honest with you.
I think with on the cost front, I think what we're seeing, and Adrian touched on it with the inks, and I think it's the same with LED technology, is that it will come down as demand goes up, and we're seeing, at least from our point of view, you know, we're now looking at probably an uplift of maybe 20-30% over a new E2C system, you know, whereas before you might have been looking at sort of double. And then also, and I know some people have already asked questions about retrofits. Retrofits are becoming really, really affordable with at least our newer aero-led product. The sort of all of our power supplies are out there for the last 5 years are all capable of running LED. So an upgrade can be as simple as buying cassettes, and that is it. So it's definitely become a lot more affordable in the last couple of years with the developments. But yes, as Adrian says, there is still a slight increase in cost there.
Brilliant. So Adrian, back to you. What was the installation experience itself like for you? Was it everything running smoothly?
Yeah, pretty much. Some tuning work at the end of the install, and yeah, it was all up and going. Quite trouble-free, to be fair. And I know that with the facility now to change just a cassette, it's become even easier. As I said earlier, the target is moving all the time, and it is getting easier to install as people gain experience. Yeah, it's pretty painless, and the printers are quite positive for it, because there's less stray light when the machine's in standby. There's no light whatsoever. They can easily get in. They're not, you know, you've got to be a little bit careful of obviously UV. Well, you've got to be very careful of UV light, but you've got to be pretty careful when you're going down near the machine with say cleaning a spill or something up. And they also like it from that point of view. So yeah, all around very positive.
Fantastic. And Shaun, is that something you agree with?
Yeah, definitely. My printer has embraced it, and the fact that we haven't had any curing issues, there's less maintenance. It just works for us. So definitely. Brilliant.
And Jamie, I assume you're going to say that that's fairly representative.
Yeah, I think so. I think the people worry about the impact of moving, you know, a new installation and moving to a new technology, but not just from our side of things, but now with the inks and dual cure, if you're looking at an installation and you have multiple presses, if you do one, you might think, oh, I've got to hold 2 ink systems, or maybe it's 2 suppliers. A lot of the suppliers now with their dual cure ink systems, well, you can have one press that you retrofit and you install with LED, and another press that is still running on sort of conventional arc system, and only run one ink system. So the actual impact of installation or retrofit, or if you buy a new press, is minimal now in comparison to what it might have been a few years ago.
Brilliant. Moving on to the post-installation situation. Shaun, perhaps you'd like to go first in saying, how was production improved by the arrival of UV LED?
No, we haven't had any downtime or anything with UV installed. Like I say, press speed with board, polypropylene, we're seeing really good speeds out of it. So there's absolutely no problem with regards to post installation.
Fantastic. And Adrian, for yourself, how was production improved at Olympus?
Starts first thing in the morning. There's no warm up. There's no, you know, we're not waiting for the UV to ready itself. It's basically it's a light switch. It's on off, which has been great for the help in the production figures, and also that when we're cooling down, again, you don't. I know it's only a few minutes, but if you multiply the minutes by the number of times that we, you know, a press starts and stops, and then look at the startups and cool downs and things like that, it adds up to a lot of time. In a year, I can't remember what the figure was from the ROI, but there is a figure in there, and it was quite substantial saving. It's just, it's so easy, and I can't emphasize that just how simple it is. It is dead simple, and it's popular, the printers as well. When they're on the press, it's something that they tend to forget about. It's something that, you know, concentrating on the UV or making sure that that it's there. It's, you know, checking the lamps that they have had to do on conventional, you know, making sure that there's no cleaning up, burning out or anything like that. It's all gone. It's on, off, and they're quite happy with it. It makes their life easier, and most printers like an easier life.
Naturally. From the GEW point of view, Jamie, is there anything you'd like to add on that front?
Yeah, I was gonna sort of echo what Adrian said there about downtime, maintenance, and that sort of thing. We've had factories move to LED not because of energy, but because of maintenance and downtime. As Adrian says, you know, your press operators are have to check the lamps in a conventional system to make sure they're not degrading. Your reflectors need checking, cleaning, or replacing. You have moving parts on a UV system, whether that be the shutters and all that goes with those that may begin to sort of deteriorate over the time, need replacing. You know, that's all downtime. That's service visits from us. Whereas with LED, it's completely solid state. There is nothing on that cassette, bar cleaning the window that needs doing to it. And that is a huge benefit in terms of your production schedules, your time, your downtime, and as Adrian says, that all adds up. It might not be something that is easily quantifiable when you sit down, but it does all add up over sort of the 10-year life of a press or a UV system.
Fantastic, absolutely. Well, obviously we have delved quite deep into the world of UV LED already, but before we move on to the next part of the webinar, I have to ask, are there any pros and cons of the technology that any of you feel we haven't touched upon so far? Perhaps we'll start with Adrian.
Well, we listed the pros. Minuses, varnish is still, you still tend to get some yellowing, and it's quite costly. Obviously, the usage of varnish is quite high, and it's not as competitive, I think, at the moment, in my opinion, to justify all-out LED varnish. So we have a combination of mercury and LED for the varnish, mercury for the varnish, LED for the rest of the press. I'm sure it will come, but at the moment the minuses are you got to watch out for the yellowing of the varnish. That's the main for me. But from a lamp point of view, I think that's pretty. I can't think of many minuses.
Wonderful, thank you. And Shaun, from your point of view, is there any pros we haven't mentioned or any cons you feel should be brought up?
Just with the pros, it's consistency of wavelength is a big thing for us as well. I mean, we're not getting any degrading of the lamp as opposed to mercury, so we're just getting really good results out of curing. Even the varnishes, we're not getting any yellowing, but it all depends on what manufacturer you go to. But I think the technology with regards to inks and varnishes are really moving in the right direction now. And like I said, we haven't had any issues whatsoever.
Fantastic, good to hear. And Jamie, is there anything you'd like to add on this front?
Yeah, obviously from my point of view, there's not too many cons to LED, but I think the ones that Adrian and Shaun have sort of maybe brought up about, you know, particularly about inks and investment costs that have been seen as the biggest talking points. They're all moving in the right direction. As Shaun says there, you know, there are some manufacturers who have sorted out some of the yellowing and varnishes, but yes, they are still slightly more expensive in comparison to the difference in the ink. So I think all of those things they move in the right direction. They're still there to some extent, but they're only going to get better over time.
Fantastic, thank you very much. So we're now going to move on to some more quick fire style questions interspersed with questions that have been supplied by the audience. So thank you everyone in the audience for your questions. We've got plenty to be getting on with. The next one is specifically for the two guys who've installed systems. So perhaps Shaun, if you go first, then we'll go over to Adrian. Did you decide to go entirely UV LED, a mix of dedicated stations equipped with either LED or arc LED hybrid, and why did you make that choice?
It's full LED. Every station, we've got 10 units and they're all running on LED Leo.
Brilliant. And why was that the best choice for you?
Obviously, it was tested over in Bochum. They were really happy with the results, and hence why they spec the MPS press for the UK market as they did, full LED.
Fantastic, thank you. And Adrian, same question?
The initial consideration of UV LED was because we moved into a new factory and we installed LED lighting everywhere. And from a sustainability point of view, we wanted to be consistent. And then as costs have increased, we started to bring forward the plan. And initially we installed 4 lamps on a 9-colour machine, and then we slowly increased it. We just be careful. We have a lot of work on open papers, so we just have to be pretty careful where we went. And now we're just considering the next step of which machines will convert over. So the initial request from our user group down on the shop floor was to consider it. We considered it for a factory, then moved on to the presses, and we're slowly moving up the presses as we bring more LED in. I think we will escalate that integration now, but at the moment we actually run combination hybrid of mercury and LED, arc LED.
Brilliant, thank you. And Jamie, obviously you haven't made the installation yourself, but is there anything you would like to add about those 3 options and how some might fit different companies?
Yeah, I think it's exactly that. I think for how we see it, and someone actually asked the question about why you'd still need to be using arc lamps. It all comes down to application. As Adrian said, with the varnishes, you might prefer to still be using an arc lamp, so you might be going for the sort of arc LED, as we call it, the hybrid option, running both, or you might be in Shaun's position where actually you have an ink system that you are happy with, there is no yellowing, and you go full LED. So that's why, and I think it was the same question, GEW still offers both, because there is still demand for both. And the interchangeability of that then allows you from job to job tailor your UV system to what job you're running. So that's why some people like Adrian have a combination, or Shaun have full LED, and why we still offer both systems.
Fantastic. And then again, I'll come to Shaun first and then to Adrian. Are you open to, or do you already have multiple UV LED installations? And if so, why?
We only have 1 installation at the moment, but the next press will be spec'd exactly the same.
Okay, brilliant. And Adrian?
We have 2 machines with hybrid arc LED installed, and the plan is to roll it out over all 7 machines. And so, yeah, that should come relatively quickly, hopefully.
Excellent, thank you very much. And Jamie, once again, is there anything you'd like to add from the GEW side?
No, I'd sort of say, I think looking at new machines, like if you're looking for, obviously if you're looking at retrofits, then, one by one, but equally if you're looking at new machines like Shaun and Bizerba did for their current one or their future one, the difference in the uplift in price when you're looking at a new press as a percentage of the total investment, going for LED over an arc system is very small. So if you're looking at new investments into new machines, particularly at this point in time, it makes sense to future-proof yourself with LED, or at least a system that can be upgraded to LED in the future. So that's all I'd sort of add on that.
Thank you. And then we've got a question from the audience. Jamie, perhaps you'll be best placed to answer this one first. Whilst if I switch to UV LED from my existing mercury arc system, how much can I expect to reduce my electricity bill?
Yeah, so moving to full LED, and if you take a look at our newest LED product, our air-cooled Aero LED, you can be looking anywhere up to sort of 70% reduction in energy usage for the system. It depends on the system, how many lamps, how long they are, what the current power is on the lamps that you have. But that's where our new ROI calculator can really come in handy, either to contact us and have us put together a tailored ROI, or heading over to our website and sticking in your own information to then see how much you'd sort of be expecting to save on that.
Brilliant. And similarly, I think this one's probably best answered by yourself as well. We're asked, are LED UV inks widely available in Australia? The questioner says that they haven't had any ink supplier offer them to him. And he says, what's the point of a press that I can't readily get UV inks for?
Yeah, so I'm probably the best on this panel to answer it. I'm probably not the best at GEW to answer for it, as I don't look after Australia, so I'm not as familiar with the market. But from what I know, is that most UV or LED UV ink suppliers now do manufacture LED versions or dual cure versions that cure under both. The specifics for Australia, I would have thought they are available. It might be worth either talking to your own ink supplier or having a look at some others to find that. In terms of a press, that you can't get the inks for, I'd say that's where GEW and arc LED, hybrid technology is brilliant. You can have a system on that press that runs the inks that are currently available in your area on a E2C arc lamp. And then in a couple of years' time, if they do become available, you're then already kitted up with the correct power supplies and fans to then run LED at a later date. So as I say, I'm not 100% sure on where the market is in Australia, but I would have thought there would be some suppliers that are already manufacturing LED inks.
Fantastic, thank you. And then to go back to Adrian and Shaun, obviously you've now made the decision to invest and installed your systems. But if you were making the decision today, would the current energy costs affect that decision, and would you still have moved to UV LED?
100%. I think it's a step in the right direction. I mean, it's just like your household, it makes more sense to go to LED lighting. It's more cost effective, and it's no different for a press. If the technology's there, the ink's cured, and you're getting the same speeds, it's only a matter of time before ink technology moves on, and that drives the overall cost of inks down. So
fantastic. And Adrian, do you feel the same way?
Absolutely, yeah. It's a no-brainer. When you actually have played with it and tested it and then start to run with it, as Shaun quite rightly says, it's something that you'll take up and you'll run with. We've had very, very few negatives out of it, only positives. And the cost of electricity saving now, when I see some of the costs that are around in the industry, it's quite frightening. You talk to some of the, and I talk to some of the other print managers and business owners, and it is the main subject. And when you ask that question about electricity, the cost, how much are they going to save? That's the first question that I get asked by everyone. How much are you saving? How much are you saving? It's a lot of money you can save, and that's why we will roll out with it more. You just got to test your inks, test everything out. The guy in Australia, I'm surprised it's not available down there. I'm very surprised, but a lot of the major ink suppliers now are offering dual cure inks.
Fantastic. And Jamie, is there anything you'd like to add on that front?
No, I think they answered it pretty well. I think with where the costs are now, savings wise, it's a no-brainer LED. You know, it's easy for me to say, but to hear Shaun and Adrian say it, you know, I think that carries a bit more weight than maybe what I would say.
Absolutely. So then we'll start with Adrian and then go to Shaun. How do your press operators feel about the change? Have they embraced the technology?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they like using it. It's on off. I mentioned it before. It's on off. There's no stray light. Yeah, it's very easy. They've embraced it, and they're more than happy using that all the time. Yeah, more than happy. Yeah.
Fantastic. And Shaun, do you have a similar view?
Yeah, absolutely. My printer couldn't be more happy, and you know, he's come from running an EDAL to running, you know, UV inks to running an MPS with full LED, and yeah, he walks around with a grin on his face. So I take it he's happy.
Fantastic. And then we've got a couple more questions from the audience. So one person asks, can a retrofit be done to any machine? Jamie, perhaps you'd like to take that one first.
So the quick answer on that is yes. Any machine, particularly if it's got one of our existing systems on, that can have an LED retrofit. In terms of what machines and systems are easier, I touched on it before, but anyone who's got a UV system from us in the last sort of 5 years, that's E2C lamps with Rhino or RLT power supplies, they're really easy to retrofit. It is just simply adding LED cassettes. The older machines, there are a few more components that we have to sort of add into the offer and the specification, but on the whole, pretty much any machine can be retrofitted with LED.
Fantastic, thank you. And I think another one that you're probably best placed to answer, is UV ink suitable for direct food contact? And does the LED part of the process change the photo initiators?
So the second part of that is yes, the photo initiators in LED inks are different. They have to be reactive at a very specific wavelength, 395 nanometers, which is the output of light that you get from our LEDs, but almost all LEDs now are regularly at 395, at least in the UK and Ireland. So you do need specific photo initiators. Obviously, a lot of the dual key rings will then have photo initiators that react at 395, but also at the shorter wavelengths for the UV lamps. In terms of ink suitable for direct food, I believe quite a few of the ink manufacturers have developed food grade inks. Again, I'm not an ink supplier. I wouldn't want to comment too much, but from what I know, that is where their development has been with direct food contact.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Adrian, we've now got one specifically for you. A member of the audience asks, were you using ARC technology before moving over to LED?
Yes.
Brilliant, thank you. Cool. So taking a look again at our quickfire questions, one that all three of you I hope can answer is, what reassurances would you have for a company that thinks that switching onto UV LED would be a challenge or a challenging experience? Perhaps you'd like to go first, Shaun.
Yeah, well, for me, if I was going to invest in technology, I'd want to see it in person and see it working. And you know, with permission, companies like ourselves will welcome people on site to so they can see it in their own eyes.
Thank you. And Adrian, what would your advice be?
To anyone, sorry?
To anyone who's concerned that making the switch from ARC to UV LED will be too much of a challenge.
To keep your own state of mind, you know, to keep your own sanity, you would test, but I wouldn't have any qualms about recommend. Well, I'm sat here now talking to you guys about it. I wouldn't have any qualms about recommending it to anyone and moving over there. But for your own benefit, yeah, you do some testing, which we managed to do it, so other people can, and move forward. It's future, really.
Brilliant. And Jamie, what would the GEW line be?
Yeah, I think Adrian and Shaun are right. I think you got to do your research, and we spoke about it earlier. Involving all parties, your UV supplier, your LED supplier, your ink supplier, and then also, if there are still some concerns, look at running some tests. We run tests at our own site here in the UK. We run tests at other customer sites. We can do tests at your own site by supplying LED cassettes for trials and that sort of thing. So it's really important that you do your research before to kind of sort of overcome that challenge of making the move.
Brilliant, thank you. And in a similar vein, for Shaun and Adrian, what do you now know that you wish you'd known prior to your initial UV LED purchase? So Adrian, would you like to go first?
I think that I would go down the ink route with the dual cure, the dual cure development. I wish I'd been more informed about that farther back down the road. That would have changed a few things around, perhaps in our way of thinking. But that's pretty much it. I think the developments we did pause at one point because we knew that certain products were coming to market, and so you've just got to be out there talking to people and listening to what the LED suppliers are telling you. I think one important question is to what's around the corner, and that's always a good question when you're looking at any kit that you're going to buy, install, or system that you're going to do. You need to be up to date with what the various suppliers around the world are coming to market with, because you don't want to be the last one to put the one system in when it all changes onto another one. You want to be as far ahead of the game as you can. So I think with the dual cure, that would have been something that would have helped me out, and we spotted a few things that helped us pause, think about it again, and then move forward. But you never get everything right, but you just hope you get most things right.
Superb, thank you. And Shaun, from your point of view, what do you wish you'd known prior to the actual purchase installation?
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, obviously Bizerba done their own research. They've tried and tested it prior to deciding to make the switch to full LED. We haven't had any problems, so there is no looking back.
Once again, Jamie, obviously you haven't installed it yourself, but is there any particular area you recommend potential customers investigate or knowledge they acquire before installing?
Yeah, I think similar lines to the last question is doing your research. I think sometimes people look back, and Adrian touched on it with regards to ink or availability of varnish or the yellowing. As long as you're doing your research, before you get there, then you're not going to have those things to look back on. As Adrian said, they were one of the first people to look into it. So, they have a lot to look back on because they were quite at the forefront of looking at LED. Whereas now, I think there's a lot better understanding of some of that information, and hopefully we can all learn from that and do the research, and we won't have anything to look back on as we do more LED retrofits.
Could I add?
Of course.
I would have. There's one thing I did think about then. I would have actually set some standards certainly now I would set some standards that have a minimum requirement that you want of the performance of the system, so that you can, you set that level of it must run at this speed, curing this, that, pick some inks that you consider are, the tougher ones to cure and work with, and that's the standard you set. So perhaps looking back, I would have set those parameters a little bit earlier than as well as learning about the dual cure ink. So I think that's one thing I would have added to that as well. Yeah, set some standards a minimum standard that you require.
Brilliant, thank you, Adrian. We've had more than one person in the audience ask how LED inks compare to more standard UV ones. and that's in terms of cure through, adhesion, general printing behavior when it comes to things like foaming. So how do they compare? Perhaps, Adrian, you'd like to go first?
Very favourably. Some of the bonds are better. Some of the rub resistance, in a lot of cases, better. Not seeing the foaming as such. Performs great. Yeah. No issues whatsoever.
Brilliant. And Shaun, would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, the quality checks that we're doing on our board, we're having no quality issues at all. Abrasion tests, tape tests, they're all passing with flying colours. We have no foaming of the inks or varnishes. We do have to wash the press out at the end of the week, whereas traditional UV, you could pretty much cover it and just leave it in the press. But again, that might be down to specific ink suppliers, and other people might have different results than what we're getting, but yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. And Jamie, would you have anything you'd like to add on that front?
Yeah, I think sort of hit a nail on the head in terms of the performance there. You know, they are comparable, if not at times better than UV. I think what I would add to that is the longevity that you're going to have those results in terms of adhesion and print behavior, because over the course of its life, it is going to be consistently outputting enough UV dose to cure that ink. Some of the issues that we see with conventional arc lamps is that as it peaks, the UV output peaks and troughs with changing of reflectors or changing of lamps. When you've got an old lamp in there and you've got old reflectors, the ink might not cure as well. When you've got new lamps and new reflectors, it will cure really well. So what you have with LED is ink behavior that is, or printing behavior that is as good as UV ink, but far more consistent from a day-to-day, week-to-week, year-to-year basis.
Brilliant. You mentioned the lifetime during that answer. We've had a question from the audience saying that some suppliers who will say that the lamp life of LED is around 20,000 hours, others will go as high as 50,000. They ask, why is there such a discrepancy between the different lamp suppliers?
Yeah, so lamp lifetime in terms of LED is an interesting point. So the numbers that you've got there, sort of 30,000 to 50,000, they're actually calculated by sort of extrapolating usage data. So by running the lamp for a certain number of hours, you then extrapolate to see what the output would be at, for example, 50,000 hours. So those numbers where people are saying 30 to 50,000 hours is when the output is expected to be at 80%. So when we say lifetime, your lamp isn't going to stop working at 50,000 hours. It is going to continue well past that. And actually, if you compare to how a conventional arc lamp works and the peaks and troughs you get in that will regularly be dipping below 80% output. So 40,000 hours, if you were printing 24/7, that lamp never went off, is 4.5 years. So put that into a production schedule. You know, you could be looking at 10 plus years life. No one, you know, as far as we're aware, has ran a lamp for 50,000 hours. It's all extrapolated data at this point. So that's why there's a difference. It depends on how long they've actually ran their lamps for up to this point.
Okay, thank you. And Jamie, we've got a two-part question, which is specifically for you. Someone from the audience asks, first of all, why is GEW still offering arc lamp technology? And the second part is, why would a company need to interchange from arc to LED and back?
Yeah, so as we've sort of already touched upon, the use of LED and arc sometimes be dependent on the application, in particular with the ink or varnish that's being used. So that's why we still offer both, but also you know, flexo is a big part of our business, but we run into sort of industrial applications as well, where arc lamps and standard UV is still used and required. In terms of interchanging arc and LED, that comes back to the sort of availability of ink products. Put varnish aside, there are some LED products that are better, cold foiling, for example. But on the arc side, there are still some inks that are only available in an arc UV product. So if you've got a 6-color press on one job, you might want to run a metallic that is only available in UV. So you have your arc set in there for that. On the next job, you're not running that metallic. You're running another just standard color, and then you can put in your LED to make use of the energy saving and the maintenance reduction. So that just allows you to go back and forth depending on the job that you're running more than anything.
Brilliant, thank you very much. We're now approaching the final 5 minutes or so of the webinar, so I think that's always a nice time to ask all three of you to break out your crystal balls. And can you predict for me how you see the growth and development of UV LED going specifically within the flexo sector? Adrian, perhaps you'd like to take first crack.
That's a good one. It's just going to accelerate massively, especially with the power chargers that are around now. It's going to accelerate massively. Can't say any more than that, really. I think anyone who doesn't seriously look at this now is going to have one big electricity bill.
Brilliant. And Shaun, is there anything you'd like to add or disagree with?
LED technology's gone over the last 4 years, or even 10 years. I think they're really starting to crack, the ink technologies behind it and whatnot. So for me, it's the right time to move.
Brilliant, thank you. And Jamie, from GW's point of view, how do you see the market developing and the technology, of course?
Yeah, I think the market's only going in one direction. We've seen a huge increase in the last couple of years of LED and a larger proportion of our business being LED. Moving forward, in terms of the market, LED is where all the research and development's going on. That's where we invest our money into LED. The ink companies, that's where they're investing their money. From a supplier point of view, us and the other suppliers of inks and consumables, that is where we all see the market going. And when you now look at it with the rising energy costs and things like that, it's only going to sort of reaffirm those sort of visions of where it's going. And as Shaun and Adrian have said, I think now's the time, with everything going on, to make use of the technology that is there to really sort of move companies on and sort of really get hold of the benefits.
Brilliant, thank you. And as a final question, we'll ask Adrian and Shaun, what factors were it that led you to choosing GW as your UV LED provider? Shaun, perhaps you'd like to take that one first?
GW, I've worked with GW since I moved to the UK, and yeah, they've been brilliant. Whenever I've had any issues, they're straight on it. The engineers are on the phone, and they diagnose most problems straight away. So for me, it's about technical. So I wouldn't go anywhere else.
Thank you. And Adrian, is there anything you'd like to add?
We've used different LED systems, different UV systems over the years. Going back, we've been going 29 years. But we settled into a system with GW that worked very well for us. And whilst we do go out and, should we say, stress test everything that they bring to us, and we check it out with other suppliers, we've come around to their way every time so far. So yeah, it's been a good backup. The service has always been good, and yeah, I wouldn't hesitate in recommending them to anyone. Everyone does the research and they need to find out for themselves, but I certainly wouldn't have any problem recommending GW to anyone.
Brilliant. And Jamie, at the risk of being self-promotional, is there anything you'd like to add why someone should approach you guys?
Yeah, I think for us, we're very much customer focused, and it's finding the right system that for you as our customer. and then supporting you through that, whether that be an arc system, a full LED system, whether you want help looking at your return on investment or on energy or maintenance. We're there to make sure we're providing a system that is right for you and supporting you with that for its lifetime. So yeah, that's what I would add on that.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Well, that brings us to the end of our hour, so we'll wrap up the webinar now. Before we go, I'd obviously like to thank all three of you, Jamie, Adrian and Shaun, for your time and for sharing your expertise. Hopefully our audience learned something today. We haven't managed to get through all the audience questions, so if you are sat wondering if we'll answer, the answer is yes. Either GEW will be in touch or we will cover some of the answers in an upcoming edition of FlexoTech, so keep your eyes on that. But otherwise, thank you all for joining us and have a wonderful rest of your afternoon.